It says we're live. I don't yet trust it. Okay, what a big day. What a big show. It's the week 9 waiver wire watch special, whatever you want to say, here on the Audible, the footballguys.com podcast. And we've got a lot to get to as the fantasy playoffs are rapidly approaching and your pulse may be high. You may be, sweating a little bit right now, especially today. Bloom, how many nods and winks can we throw in today for? Yeah, it's election day. All right?
Yeah,
We're not gonna beat around the bush. So yeah, you may be nervous. I think there's a nervous energy about the country right now. So
absolutely. No, the mass consciousness is jittery, to say the least. And we're all little nodes in that, It's kind of like we're individual brain cells, and the body, the endocrine system that we're part of, has released adrenaline. We're in a fight or flight moment, and we're all just little cells reacting to that and how it's filtering down to us. But what can I say? See, we're not going to talk about the waiver wire at all today, are we? No, I mean, since we went over this, you eloquently set things up on Thursday night. And I guess the simplest thing for me to say is this show has always been about connection, our connection, all of us on the show, our connection to the people that we serve. And something that, again, I'll cite Hunter Thompson and Richard Nixon. When they were talking football, they got along. And I think that probably even well before we knew each other's political leanings or ideologies, there are a lot of things we disagreed about. There are things we still disagree about now. And we truly love each other, and we truly cherish the time we get to spend together. And I think that's true for people listening to us right now. And hopefully we can find those commonalities, because guess what, folks? No matter who wins, we still have to live together tomorrow.
Yes, peace. Remember peace. And remember, it's time to talk a little bit of football with Dr. Jene Bramel, who joins us to go over the injured quarterbacks. Dr. Jene, you are up. Nate Jackson didn't think I knew who the Ghetto Boys were. I was like, come on, dude. Come on. Like, seriously. Anyway, Phillip Rivers, 3 to 5%, along with Tua. And as we said in the recap show, Bloom, it's like, we didn't really get to see much of Tua because they didn't have to win. And then Phillip Rivers, just when we thought it was going to be boring and, oh, my God, look at this. Oh, well, yeah, look at this. What's going on there? Rivers and Tua at the top of your list.
Yeah, and only 3 to 5%ers. So the quarterback waiver wire is really quiet this year. But we did see Phillip Rivers, and again, maybe this is just me being hard on Phillip Rivers. Every time Phillip Rivers throws a couple touchdowns, I'm like, well, yeah, because, and I should do this for every quarterback. I should be fair, but Nyheim Hines makes a spin move. Nyheim Hines gets open downfield on a go route, and so it's there. Trey Burton also scored another rushing touchdown in that game. 41 points. You like the Colts' ability to put points on the board. You think that there is some restoration of this offense to not leaving Phillip Rivers vulnerable to losing the game for them, but still adding what Phillip Rivers has to add. Old man game, ball placement and audibles at the line and things like that, which I think he did very well against Detroit. We'll see how he does against Baltimore this week. So that's the thing. If you pick up Rivers, you're not plugging him in this week right away against Baltimore. However, going to hit this a lot of schedule notes in this one, because we're there now. I mean, you should really be looking at the schedule at this point. Tennessee, Green Bay, Tennessee, Houston, Vegas, Houston, the next 6 weeks after that. So absolutely, Phillip Rivers can help you out. Tua, we didn't get to see much of. That was, he started out rough, then got his feet under him. And one of the things you can see about Tua that I think wasn't played up a lot in his profile is he's very mobile. He's athletic, and he's competitive. So I'm really excited to see what he does against Kyler Murray this week. I'm really excited. Now, remember, this defense could reshape this team into a defense and ball control type team, but you still have matchups coming up for Tua against the Chargers. There's another quarterback duel for you with Justin Herbert, rookie duel. Denver, the Jets, Cincinnati. Look at that, Cease. We're going to get to watch Tua against Herbert and Tua against Burrow.
Nice.
And against Patrick Mahomes. So these are all matchups that could easily bring out the best in Tua, both in football and fantasy terms. So it's a good idea to add him if you need some depth.
You didn't mention him going against Drew Lock, Bloom. It's because you traded away Lock finally.
For a second round pick. Thanks to the Chargers defense. Thanks to Anthony Lynn. But I know someone in the Broncos organization.
Close enough. Close enough. All right. Let's continue on with the 1%ers, basically, although Nick Foles is 1 to 3%.
Yeah.
Nick Foles, Kyle Allen, there's Drew Lock. Jake Luton inserted into the lineup, and then Nick Mullins. Ooh, San Francisco. My God. Nobody complain about injuries unless you're a 49ers fan.
Yeah. Well, I can think of other teams, but really nobody complain about injuries is probably the best way to put it, because as we again point out, some of these teams, decisive plays made by players that the team never expected to count on, kind of like fantasy football. And no excuses, Bill Belichick says, until he says, well, we spent all of our money the last 5 years going to the Super Bowl. Anyway, Nick Foles. Nick Foles is not quite a 1%er, but not, still, am I adding Nick Foles? Well, look, Nick Foles could get replaced. Mitch, please, at any time. But Nick Foles also is going to face Tennessee, Minnesota, Green Bay, Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, and Jacksonville. That's the best remaining schedule for any quarterback left. So if he gets going with Darnell Mooney, this year's Darius Slayton, we'll talk about him, Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, as we saw that trio do some things against the Saints, Nick Foles might have some fantasy value. Moving right along to Kyle Allen. He was playing pretty well for Kyle Allen going into the bye. Gets the Giants this week. Again, we're looking at the schedule here. Detroit, Cincinnati, Dallas. I mean, those are manageable matchups if you're in an emergency situation. And Cease, we're already seeing now, by the way, a preview of the running back waiver wire. Jamal Williams is out because he's a close contact of A.J. Dillon. We'll see if Aaron Jones is going to play. The point is, I think as we get into the winter, into cold and flu season, you may be tapping into your bench unexpectedly. So having good quarterback depth, Kyle Allen might provide that. I'm not necessarily playing Kyle Allen on purpose, but there's a lot of things about fantasy football this year that have gone awry. Then Drew Lock. I should really let you talk about Drew Lock, but numbers are numbers. And
there was a change after halftime, and I'm going to guess that change was they're telling him where to go with the ball because he doesn't know the offense. Shermer's basically admitted that. Yeah. And I think he's doing what Rich Scangarello did last year. Scangarello would tell him in his headset, Jared Goff style, this is where you go with the ball. You can't have that much of a shift because Spagnuolo did. There's not Spagnuolo, but you didn't see any changes from the Chargers defense.
Right. Gus Bradley.
Yeah, Gus Bradley. You didn't see any changes. So what changed with Locke? I think they were telling him where to go. Either way,
I'm not convinced it's going to sustain. It is a good matchup this week. Some of it also was the Chargers really just letting up in the second half. Drew Lock is, again, depth. I mean, look at your fantasy roster, especially if you have a quarterback that still has a bye left. You may have to start someone off the waiver wire or your third quarterback. So it's good to be thorough with your depth here. We get to Jake Luton. Again, and again, Cease, Greg Cosell loves it. I tagged him. I said, the Greg Cosell said that Jake Luton could be like Jared Goff in a Rams-type offense. But Jay Gruden's offense is a Rams-type offense in the sense that it's going to be tell him what to do, like you're saying. Jake Luton has more than enough skills to be a game manager. Here we go with the schedule again. First one up, Houston. I mean, should we be shocked if Jake Luton throws for like 250 and a couple of touchdowns against Houston?
No, not at all.
It would also almost be disappointing. And then you have Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Minnesota, Tennessee, Baltimore, Chicago to end up there for Jacksonville. But Jake Luton, he could have some lasting value. Nick Mullins. Well, we've seen Nick Mullins look good in garbage time last week. We've seen Nick Mullins look good against the Giants. And we've also seen Nick Mullins implode. Get replaced. Yeah. So here's your range of possibilities for Nick Mullins. It is Green Bay. This is a team that San Francisco has owned, but they also only have two of their top five running backs. They don't have George Kittle. They don't have Deebo Samuel. I'm also almost thinking Green Bay defense, but Green Bay defense has been so toothless lately. We get to watch it on Thursday night. But if Nick Mullins rights the ship here and gets on a roll, you got the New Orleans pass defense up after that, and then after the bye, the Rams, Buffalo, Washington, Dallas, Arizona in the fantasy playoffs. So there's a possibility there. Also, possibility we'll see C.J. Beathard, and of course, there's a larger discussion here. So we've seen Jimmy Garoppolo's last game as a 49er, only 2.8 million dead cap next year versus about 25 million paycheck. So, let's weigh that out before we weigh out the running backs.
Before Matt Ryan plays for the 49ers next year. Hey, everybody. And there used to be a time when you could kind of fall asleep at the wheel a little bit in fantasy if you were a good team, right?
Yeah.
And you could roll. And this year, it's almost in a way a slash of like a keeper league mixed in with DFS, where if you're using your waiver wire like another draft, just making sure that you're strong. You cannot be weak this year. That's why you work trades, you work the waiver wire, you listen to the show, and you have a good time. And you listen to Dr. Jene Bramel, who joins us to go over injured running backs in week 9. Okay, Bloom, this is your waiver wire report. Upgrades, downgrades, waiver wire report available at footballguys.com. Number one is J.K. Dobbins. And if he's out there, grab him.
Yeah.
Even though that backfield is a convoluted mess. Zach Moss, 25 to 50%. Speaking of messes, him and Devin Singletary going back and forth. Let's go ahead and throw in Phillip Lindsay, 20 to 40%. Jordan Wilkins, 20 to 40%. If the Broncos weren't stubborn and actually liked Lindsay, maybe they could go, hey, he's better than Melvin Gordon. Let's give him more than 6 touches.
Well, this is a tough week at the running back waiver wire seas. So I'm going to ask you to weigh in on what you think of these things. This is a tough group to sort out. And I think that for some of you may not be there again, wide netting it. Zach Moss. What I like about Zach Moss is this. He's going to get goal line carries. He looks good. He looks better, honestly, than I thought he was going to look in the NFL now that his toe's better. It's still going to be a split. The other good thing about Moss, he has momentum of the Buffalo running game getting on track finally last week. So these two things converging, and we know this is a viable offense with Josh Allen. On the other side, there's Josh Allen maybe getting rushing touchdowns and Devin Singletary in the way from a full workload. Well, Singletary, there's some injury upside there if Singletary gets hurt. So I think the thing about Zach Moss is if you're plugging him in as your running back 2 every week, you're okay with that. You could do worse. You're going to get goal line carries. You're going to get some receptions. You're going to get at least 10 or 12 carries. But he doesn't have a season-changing possibility for you. But there's that safe value there. Phillip Lindsay could be a season changer. See, you laid it out. What's in the way? Assumption of rational coaching. And I wish I thought that they were going to give Lindsay the workload that he's earned, but
we'll put it on Melvin Gordon, who's either going to fumble his job away or he's going to get hurt. So Phillip Lindsay does have season-changing value. Yeah, and if he's out there, you grab him because Gordon will fumble again, and just know behind the scenes they're not real happy with that. And then know that this guy's always hurt. So whether it's DUIs, strep throat, it was totally strep throat. It wasn't, nothing to do with it, just strep throat. And by the way, Bloom, can't the league take action on any sort of suspension for Melvin
they
Gordon?
Could, but they probably will wait for the legal system to work itself out. So next year.
Which means next year. Okay. Yeah. Well, all right. Well, strep throat aside, the chances, it's like I feel about Bryce Callahan. Like Bryce Callahan's playing really good football, like I said he would for about 10 games. Well, we're week 9, okay, Melvin Gordon, he's not playing good football. He's not good. And he doesn't stay healthy. So I'd take that chance on Phillip Lindsay for sure.
Yeah. So again, what are you looking for? Are you looking for bolstering your bench at running back? maybe that's more Philip Lindsay. If you're looking for someone you got to plug in this week, I mean, maybe it's still Philip Lindsay, but Zach Moss a little bit better there. And then we get to Jordan Wilkins. Lots of variables here, right? I mean, the one thing that's not a variable is that Jordan Wilkins is good. And if you pay any attention to Matt Waldman, get the RSP, as you should every year if you care about football, you knew Jordan Wilkins was good. What you don't know is how hurt is Jonathan Taylor, or is he really even hurt? Because, everyone's playing less than 100% at this point. Some say the ankle thing has been going on for a while. Some say the ankle thing actually explains why he hasn't been as decisive or looked like the same running back he was at Wisconsin. Some might think this is like Jet McKinnon's tired legs, where the coach is trying to keep the guy from just, having to deal with being thought of as someone who was benched. I don't know. The other thing here that makes me not necessarily go strong to the hole for Wilkins and say spend everything you have left is because Wilkins isn't known for staying healthy either. This could be a situation. Remember Cecil quickly we got to like Jonathan Williams last year, and for a little bit it was Jonathan Williams as the hot pickup for the Colts. So, I think that there's scenarios where Wilkins could end up easily being the most valuable running back on the waiver wire this week. And there's scenarios where in a week or two he goes back to getting 5 carries. It is a tremendous schedule, which is another reason that should nudge you towards being more aggressive than Wilkins than less. Again, 2 games against Tennessee, 2 games against Houston, the Green Bay run defense, and the Raiders after this game against Baltimore this week. So, a lot to think about. And again, and you mentioned Dobbins, also Edmonds. I hope that Edmonds isn't out there on a waiver wire, but I'm sure in some public leagues he would also be one that would top this list.
And Dobbins might be there just because everyone's frustrated with that Ravens backfield. But again, rational coaching, like he's the best one you got. Like, come on, Baltimore. Ratbirds. Justin Jackson, he's a slasher, and 15 to 30% for him, along with Gus Edwards at 15 to 30%. So here where you can talk about the Ravens backfield bloom that continues to frustrate. And then there is Damian Harris. Now, not only is this kind of a difficult week at running back bloom, it's also, I look at your prices. It's like, okay, there's a little bit of difference. So Edwards Jackson, 15 to 30, Damian 12 to 25. This one's close.
Yeah, trying to give folks a little bit of guidance here. And with Edwards and Dobbins, for that matter, the big question here is there some sort of veteran deference to Mark Ingram? So once he's ready to play, he goes back to his old role, basically the lead back, in so much as there is lead back. Or do you look at the fact that you ran on the Steelers for over 200 yards and say, maybe we should stick with the recipe that we have? If they stick with the recipe they have, when they go against defenses that aren't the Steelers, Edwards has 100-yard upside and multiple touchdown upside. Even if they go back to Ingram being the lead back, Edwards was getting close to the workload of Ingram. It was Dobbins, actually, who was often being marginalized. Now, does that change? So lots of questions here. What we know is this. Gus Edwards is good. The Ravens running game is good. And we'll see. Absolutely, if there's any question about whether he was worth rostering. That was answered last week. Justin Jackson also answered questions about, 2 weeks ago, Joshua Kelly's getting more work than him. Then Joshua Kelly basically marched. Troy May Pope is ahead of Kelly, and Justin Jackson's back as the lead back and looking good. And again, another Matt Waldman favorite. We knew Justin Jackson could play. It was a question of him holding up. There was some cracks showing there last week, not after this week. And if we were to say everybody stays healthy on this list and everything kind of proceeds as expected, maybe Justin Jackson should be the highest rated player on this list. The other variable here is we don't know when Austin Eckler's going to be back. See, so the more time that passes before we hear about Austin Eckler, the more I'm moving back in my mind when he's going to come back. Or maybe if he's going to come back.
Well, and the more they lose games.
Right.
Like if they're winning games, there's a chance they bring Eckler back because everybody's hurt in the NFL, but are you injured? Eckler's injured, so that's why he's not playing.
Yeah. So again, lots of stuff to weigh out here. Justin Jackson, you got to be happy with him playing. And maybe if you had to play someone this week, Justin Jackson would be the best of any of the names we've talked about so far. And then there's Damian Harris. The New England running game getting on track. Damian Harris had a great second half against the Bills. He looked good against the 49ers. He just barely got work. And Damian Harris, he's not going to be a league winner. He's not going to blow off your doors, but he's going to harvest the value that's there. He's Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis plus. He's Sony Michel, NFL Sony Michel plus. Not plus plus plus, but he'll get what's there and maybe get a little bit more too. Now, this week against the Jets, it wouldn't surprise me to see him have 20 for 50, but maybe a touchdown or two because it's the Jets. Or maybe this is a Monday night 12-6 kind of game. I know that Harris isn't a season changer, but I also know that he's going to be the lead back. I'm not sure when Michelle's going to come back. Not sure what direction this Patriots team is headed. So a lot of not sures here in this tier. But the good news is this. For those of you that have already used up 50, 60, 70, 80% of your budget, it's throwing even modest like 5%, 6%, 7% got left on these backs. You may get one because chances are there's at least 2 or 3 backs that you're weighing on the waiver wire this week.
There is some help out there for you, including the 10 to 20% section, which is JaMychal Hasty, Nyheim Hines, Jerick McKinnon, and there's Devin Singletary as that conversation continues about that Bills backfield. And then we'll get to the rest. But that 10 to 20%, again, kind of a thicker section. There is some help to varying degrees.
Absolutely. JaMychal Hasty should lead the backfield in touches against Green Bay, and we know what Green Bay's run defense is all about. Jerick McKinnon at least gets opportunity as a receiver. He actually got a short yardage touchdown. I still don't totally trust him. And the 10 to 20% on both of these guys indicates that I think this backfield is going to be split close to down the middle. There is some potential for lasting value here, much like the question about Austin Eckler. If the 49ers start to lose games, so they bring back Raheem Mostert. Although right now, because of that doubt, make an offer for Raheem Mostert. Nyheim Hines, every 2 months, Hines is going to go off. He's so good. I mean, when I say he's so good, what I mean is compared to his reputation. Just an offensive coordinator that had a commitment to Hines could make him work in the same way that at their best. It seems like with these receiving back seats, James White will have a year when he's utilized to his fullest. Ja'Quick Cohen will have a year when he's utilized to his fullest. Danny Woodhead will have a year when he's utilized to his fullest. But then changing situations, changing coaches.
I think Nyheim Hines is more along the lines of Austin Eckler.
Sure.
If he was used the right way.
Right, because he was a former slot receiver too. I mean, you're seeing the dynamism. My brain. Dynamism. Why I've been so excited about Hines to just stash him on the bench and see what happens, because when the ball's in his hands, especially downfield, good things can happen. You're still risking a 3 or a 4 in your lineup when you put him in, but you can see this year you're also opening up the possibility of a 20 or more when you play him as a desperation play. And again, against the Baltimore defense, rational game planning would say you want to get Hines an attack at the edges. You're not going to go right into the teeth of this defense. You're also not going to throw downfield a lot and let this pass rush get to you. And you have Devin Singletary. And what can you say about Singletary? His upside is capped. We even saw when Zach Moss was out. It wasn't like he was some must play. But he had his best game of the year as a runner against New England. Zach Moss has already been hurt once this year, so there's some upside there. And at least as a desperation play, you like what Devin Singletary can do for you.
You like DJ Dallas at 7 to 15%. There's Wayne Gallman and Tremaine Pope, both 5 to 10%ers. Pope a little bit banged up. We'll have to keep an eye on that because Kareem Jackson was knocking everybody out, including his own player, his own teammate, AJ Bouye, who's also in concussion protocol. I don't know if Pope's in concussion protocol, Bloom, as I come across the wire, but either way, just be mindful and look how good he looked. Former Seattle back, by the way. It's like Seattle, okay, could have kept the guy, but 5 to 10% for them. And hell, let's throw in Cam Akers at 3 to 5%. Tyler Ervin, and we've gotten a lot of Dexter Williams questions. Now they're lower on the list at 1% each. And Ervin, one of those guys, we've always waited for that speed to come through. Yeah, maybe there's opportunity there now.
Yeah, I think that DJ Dallas, will Chris Carson play? Will Travis Homer play? Will Carlos Hyde play? It's similar questions here against Buffalo. DJ Dallas wasn't great, but he was set up to score some touchdowns, and he did score some touchdowns. And if he's back again, probably play him again if he is the clear lead back like he was in Week 8. Tremaine Pope outplaying Joshua Kelly. Maybe there's something to be taken out of here, too, about the Broncos' run defense. So maybe Todd Gurley or Brian Hill this week. And we haven't gotten to the season. I suppose it's almost time, too, we should start talking about guys like Brian Hill as we get through the waiver wire gauntlet, remember, when in doubt, roster a backup running back because of the injury attrition at the position, and especially guys who have shown something like a Brian Hill. Tremaine Pope is kind of in that position, but also maybe this week against the Raiders could have some desperation play value. Cam Akers, if you missed out on Cam Akers in your draft, he might be out there because the Rams are on the waiver. Rams on the waiver wire. Rams are on bye, so. And we're kind of skipping ahead to hold on, shut him down. Cease, right? Like, is Akers a shut him down? It's hard to say shut him down on a second round pick who hasn't really gotten a full opportunity yet. Darrell Henderson got a little thing going into the bye, but I mean, come on, we've got 8 weeks of sample size here, and what are we waiting for? What are we chasing here? Even when Darrell Henderson was banged up, what did we get? And Akers has actually been more banged up than Henderson, but still, with that talent, there's always a chance he could hit. So more than a backup running back, more than one of these guys who can help you as a desperation play because of their workload, Akers still carries that talent upside. And then we get to the Packers. And see, I wonder if the waiver wire, usually like as the season goes on, the waiver wire gets a little thinner.
Right.
Our show gets a little shorter. I wonder if it's going to be getting longer because of the close contact COVID protocol. Now, the Thursday game is really what complicated this, but we saw A.J. Dillon get a positive COVID test, and that means his close contacts, which in this case were Kamal Martin and Jamal Williams, also have to sit. Now, the Packers estimated that Aaron Jones had a limited practice on Monday.
I hate when they have to do that. Practice, no practice.
Right. If there was a practice,
right.
I would say, and I would defer to Dr. Jene, but I would say that he would have to get in knowing what we know about the Packers medical staff, he would need to get in a full practice to be cleared. Now, does the calculus on that change because of the fact that number 2 and 3 running backs are out? And does the calculus on that change because San Francisco lost Jimmy Garoppolo and George Kittle? So Green Bay might say, yeah, we can probably get by in this one. So we got Tyler Ervin, and what I would see is a Dexter Williams, Tyler Ervin committee. Williams is on the practice squad, but you got Tyler Ervin, more of a receiving back, a back that can work in space, a passing down back, more of a slasher. And then you have Dexter Williams, who's more like your classic outside zone runner, who I think that he's going to get the bread and butter carries. Ervin may have a little more value. They're both 1%ers because if Aaron Jones plays, there's not even a need to pick them up. But this is one of those situations where, and again, let's remember rock blocking and playing defense on the waiver wire and looking at your opponent this week. And maybe they don't have a running back because Joe Mixon or Nick Chubb or Miles Sanders, who actually all have been playing anyway. But the point is they might be looking to the waiver wire for running back this week. And just using that move, a little chest there to take a Tyler Ervin or Dexter Williams in a deeper league out of circulation may end up helping you win.
You're playing offense, you're playing defense, and you're playing don't fall asleep. Because if you've had players, let's say your backup quarterback already had his bye, why is he on your team? Right? Collect a running back. That's right. Collect a running back. Like I collect newsstand editions of ASM 300. Only the super nerds will get that one. Let's move on to the wide receiver position, which means Dr. Jene Bramel joins us once again to talk about injured wide receivers in week 9. Okay, Bloom. At the top, McCole Hardman, 25 to 50%. Feels like we've been talking about him a while, of course, because we have been. So listen to the show. Here's a little recap. McCole Hardman's good. Sterling Shepard is 20 to 40%. Don't forget about Jalen Reagor, who might be out there. He was banged up, but back last week and looking good last week. About the only thing that was looking good on that team. Ooh.
Yeah. Always wide netting it here. With Hardman, you had his best fantasy game of the year so far. Got a little dinged at the end of the game, but I believe he talked to the media. Everything's going to be okay there. Not quite an empty the wallet guy, just because Sammy Watkins will be back, and you still have the ups and downs of Hardman. It's great to see those ups. Jalen Reagor and Carson Wentz.
Yeesh.
Jalen Hurts. I mean, should we put 0.5% on Jalen Hurts? Or Nate Sudfeld?
I'd throw it in.
In your 2 quarterback superflex leagues, who would it probably be? Would it be Sudfeld or Hurts?
Sudfeld with Hurts moved in. I mean, Sudfeld's been around so long.
Yeah.
and is that true pocket passer. So I'd give Sudfeld a shot.
Yeah, Sudfeld with Hurts playing that Taysom Hill role. But Rager looked good. He looked dynamic. And again, Dr. Dean would advise us that it was an elbow injury, so conditioning is not going to be an issue. Soft tissue, chance for aggravation, not an issue. So Rager looked good. He looked dynamic after the catch. He had some downfield targets that didn't quite work out. But you look at the Eagles' offense after the bye, and it could be, if Carson Wentz plays better, a very different offense than what we've been seeing, because they can get back Sanders and they are getting back Rager and then getting back Goddard, and all of a sudden now if they can actually keep some guys healthy on the offensive line. We're excited about this offense. Either way, Jalen Rager shouldn't be out there. Sterling Shepard at 20-40%, not necessarily going to be a weak winner for you, but he's that most reliable target for Daniel Jones. He's the security blanket, and that's going to give you that 10-point, 12-point floor week to week. The Giants also have a very weak schedule. Another schedule note for you here. Giants, Washington this week, Philadelphia after the bye, Cincinnati, Seattle, Arizona, Cleveland. So especially that Cincinnati, Seattle, Arizona run, those could be some games where maybe Danny's not throwing dimes, but he'll be throwing to Sterling Shepard a lot.
Maybe he's just going to be steely in that game. Do we have a love fest coming up with Darnell Mooney?
Oh, yeah.
12-25% for the speedy Java rookie. Jacoby Myers also 12-25%. Let's get those two guys out of the way, because someone in the chat room said, here comes Sig's love fest for Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it on the show on Sunday. The easiest way I can encapsulate it is he's this year's Darius Slayton. And what I mean when I say that is evaluating for the draft seas. Anytime we see guys with legit vertical speed, even if they have skillets for hands, ask Troy Williamson, even if they have skillets for hands, they're going to get a shot in the NFL, right? And even if they're not showing refined skills in college, and I suppose that maybe there was more there than we thought with Darius Slayton. Maybe there was more there than we thought with Darnell Mooney. But with both Slayton and Mooney, what they're showing in their rookie years is they're not just speed threats. They're receivers who can run more of the route tree and can use that speed, the threat of that speed, to create separation on shorter routes and become a number one type receiver. I mean, a receiver that just doesn't have a limited application in the offense. And we're seeing now Darnell Mooney, even though Nick Foles has that area code accuracy on the deep ball, Darnell Mooney still creating value. He did it against New Orleans. Again, the schedule. Just look it up, folks. Chicago, I've already mentioned it once. It's a tremendous schedule for production for Darnell Mooney. And then you have Jacoby Myers. So, where Darnell Mooney might give you a 70-yard touchdown in any given week if Nick Foles could throw with accuracy, Jacoby Myers is Julian Edelman. 6 catches, 58, and a 2-point conversion. And you would think that not James White, but Jacoby Myers is the guy that's going to be that security blanket similar to Sterling Shepard. Maybe we're underrating him, but he shouldn't be on any waiver wire now, especially in PPR leagues. And see, there's a chance we could go into next year with Jacoby Myers as the number one receiver. So on Dynasty, I don't talk about this at all on the waiver wire show, but for Dynasty waiver wires, you maybe even put a much more emphasis on him, because you could see him settling in as a mainstay for this Patriots pass offense for a while.
Well, and even if New England took a wide receiver with the premium pick, they'd probably miss. Wide receivers. 10-20%. Speaking of knowing wide receivers, know that Jerry Jeudy's your best option. All due respect to Tim Patrick, who is a very hard worker. But Jerry Jeudy's the best player on that team, arguably. Still haven't seen it. Even in his breakout game, Bloom, I'm using air quotes there. Like, okay, what, 73 yards? Yeah, he could have had 173. Now, deep crossers. We talked about what unlocked it with Drew Lock. Maybe it's Pat Shermer telling him what to do. Fine. I don't care. He's a second-year quarterback. If he's a 10-year guy and you got to tell him what to do, then whatever. Make fun of him. But a second-year guy, did COVID, no preseason. Yeah. Fine. Jerry Jeudy went from 4 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets, 10 targets. So there was a clear emphasis. Now that was without Tim Patrick, but when Tim Patrick returns, why would you throw to Jeudy less? Why? When you watch the all 22, Jerry Jeudy's getting open. I feel very frustrated as someone who obviously was telling everybody how great Jerry Jeudy was, to, be in this situation now where you have to go, okay, just watch the coach's film and you see Judy wide open and you see Locke not even looking at him until last week. Why? What changed in the second half? Yeah, maybe he was told Judy's going to be wide open. So Jerry Judy, 10 to 20%. Marvin Jones Jr., 10 to 20%. And Curtis Samuel, runner or receiver, 10 to 20%.
Yeah, that's the thing about Curtis Samuel is he got the flea flicker downfield, but he also has 2 rushing touchdowns now. And much to the dismay of DJ Moore teams, I think Samuel's role in this offense is going to go away, and the short stuff is where Teddy is going to flourish. That's Samuel for sure. Jerry Judy, you did a great job breaking that down, Thies, and maybe we see the second half, Judy starts to come on as they whisper in his ear, throw to Judy. And Marvin Jones Jr., this Kenny Galladay thing does not sound good. Week to week, and we'll evaluate it, more tests. And Galladay's going into a contract year. And see, so you can comment on, I don't know how much input or control players have over this, but if I'm Kenny Galladay, I don't want to have surgery. I don't want to make this hip injury worse. I don't want to go into my biggest payday of my lifetime hurt. So, I don't know how much this is going to play into, but it's Detroit, right? Detroit hasn't exactly been the most player-friendly organization. So Marvin Jones could be the number 1 receiver the rest of the way. It's still going to be a roller coaster ride. I still don't know how much I want to count on him. I suppose that this could end up being a situation where Marvin Jones is almost more of a sabotage drop. You want someone else chasing that, occasionally putting him in the lineup. But for now, the outlook is much sunnier for Marvin Jones.
And the outlook for the rest, and we'll just do them all here.
Yeah.
Anthony Miller, Demarcus Robinson, Auden Tate, all 3 to 5 percenters. And then the 1 percenters include Braxton Berrios, Kendrick Bourne, Marvin Hall, and yes, even Deshaun Hamilton. I'll throw in 0.5% for KJ Hamler because he caught his first touchdown.
Yeah.
Anyway, there we go.
Big one.
Yeah, it was a very big one. So he got it done. It was the day of the butts because you had to get your butt down. Couldn't get 2 feet down, but 2 cheeks, that's just as good in the NFL.
Or 1 cheek, or a forearm.
1
That's
cheek
good.
and an elbow.
See, so we need to make a song, like a parody song, like the knee bones connected to the, about all the body equivalencies to get a pass to count in the NFL. What is a catch? In the world of Zen koans, what is a catch continues to be one of the most meditative, confusing, enlightening questions, as we'll never know exactly
it's our
what
new
is a catch.
Modern day, if a tree falls in the forest
Exactly.
and no one's there to hear it, doesn't make a sound.
Right. Des caught it. Anyway. Anthony Miller got 11 targets. Anthony Miller has skill. Anthony Miller has ability. It seems like there's probably stuff out of view that is to account for his changing role or the team's wavering commitment to him in the offense. But he's got possibilities. Demarcus Robinson, if you need 1 more week, I don't think Sammy Watkins is going to be back. Robinson really gets a deep ball, so you never know. He could hit for you. Auden Tate. And these guys, Auden Tate and Jordan Wilkins. I can't tell you how often, rant time, right? These have been the last guy on my dynasty rosters. I look it up. I can document it. And then the teams, they start to use them more, and then they're a healthy scratch or something like that. So then I throw them back. Because what's the point in carrying someone who's a healthy scratch? And then they get used again. Auden Tate, he's not going to win any foot races. Auden Tate is not going to be a vertical stretch of the field wide receiver. What he is going to do, and Joe Burrow knows about this, he's going to make the damn catch. Just put it somewhere around there. He's going to reel it in. And although people might make fun of Joe Burrow's arm strength, he does understand the limitations of his arm. You don't see Joe Burrow trying to make throws that Joe Burrow can't make. And that means a lot of catches for these high value, reliable targets like Higgins. They have the right receivers for him, right? Higgins and Tate, even AJ Green, the old AJ Green, and Tyler Boyd. By the way, did you see that not a no-look throw, but Tyler Boyd on the throw to clinch the game for Cincinnati, their best win in the Joe Burrow era, the first legit big win. Tyler Boyd was not fit. His back was turned, and it wasn't like a break in a route. It was just Joe Burrow understanding that Tyler Boyd's going to be able to free himself from the grasp of that player. And Tyler Boyd understanding that when I turn around, I better be ready for the ball to be on me. Because he turned around when the ball was like 3 feet from him. He didn't even have a chance to track it. It was just one of those things sometimes when you drop something, you just reach out and catch it without even thinking about doing it. But you love that chemistry. It's a little Joe Burrow the praise song here. Braxton Berrios, if Jamison Crowder's not back against the Patriots, you might get you 10 cheap PPR points. Kendrick Bourne might get you some cheap PPR points against Green Bay, as there's who's left to catch passes there. Marvin Hall, the deep threat. I should have added Dammy Amendola here. See, you can say Dammy Amendola, and I'll say Danny Amendola.
Danny Areola.
Well, there we go.
Joe.
What's really on our minds right now, Cecil? What's your pacifier? When you're a thumb sucker, for your mind to just go, that's good. And Deshaun Hamilton with that uncontested catch, and like you said, 0.5%, whatever. Let's throw KJ Hamler in there. Although we're not seeing KJ Hamler and dynamic downfield speed. He's not too, but you are seeing him do some things for Denver, and of course Atlanta up this week. So if you're going to play a desperation play against a defense, Atlanta's defense is a good one to pick out.
You almost got a rant from me there, Bloom.
Yeah,
because you did the worst thing that our society has turned into. Yeah. And I can't stand when Jack is in front of Congress. He's like, we had no idea. Yeah. Like, what? You look like a meth head, dude, allegedly, or whatever I got to say. And by the way, Twitter stock dying, and it's only 3% of our audience. And there's plenty of people in the Denver media that love to break their arm, patting themselves on the back about how great their Twitter following is or how they're horrible on Twitter. Dude, Twitter doesn't matter. Social networking is pretty much awful. But you almost got me on a rant, Bloom, because you did the look it up thing.
Yeah.
You ever been talking? And again, we all should be talking. We all should be conversing about things. But the worst guy ever is you're talking about issues, serious issues.
Yeah.
Oh, well, where'd you get that idea? Oh, look it up. Look at facts. Got the facts. Look it up. Where'd you see that? Facebook meme. What? Come on. Come on. Stop with the look it up thing. Not you, Bloom. Not you. But anyway, I just want to take a shot at social networking because it's mostly terrible, except for our audience, which is awesome. And except for Dr. Jene Bramel as we move to the tight end position. Dr. Jene, what are we looking at? Okay, Bloom, let's get to your tight ends. And Dallas Goedert, 20 to 40%. Evan Ingram, 15 to 30%. Noah Fant, 15 to 30% as well. Starting with those three, again, wide netting it. If they're out there, those are the moves for you.
Yeah, you didn't preemptively pick up Dallas Goedert after we told you last week. It wasn't the most impressive return to the field, but we know he's going to be at least a week or two before Zach Ertz is back, and Goddard has a lot more to offer than Ertz does right now. Evan Ingram, they threw to him downfield and he caught it. By the way, that was pass interference, right? On Dion Lewis on the last play.
Yeah.
It was pass interference.
Yeah.
It was pass interference. In the real time, the ref did the right thing. He threw the flag. He was holding his hand. Usually when you're holding the receiver's hand, it's sweet. Maybe they're sweethearts, but that usually means pass interference. It's one of those ones where I think it instead of Dion Lewis, it was like Christian McCaffrey or something like that. They would have called it, Yeah. But still, Danny Dimes was late on the throw, or we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We would have had an excellent overtime to watch. But Evan Ingram made the catch downfield. And maybe that's leading to more, again, giant schedule there. Noah Fant, much like Evan Ingram, with all the athletic ability in the world, hooks, lots of short targets. But hey, it all adds up in PPR leagues. And like you said, Cease, maybe it turns into hook and go. Maybe you do like the Giants Pat Shurmur connection here, right? Start to realize maybe we can use this guy downfield more as they were earlier in the year. Remember, earlier in the year with Fant was just one half. You're going to get a good half and then a half when they wouldn't throw to him. But Drew Lock finding himself, all that good stuff. So the merry-go-round continues at tight end. And remember, again, look at the George Kittle team in your league. Who did they have as a backup tight end? If the answer is nobody or Greg Olsen, then play defense on the waiver wire this week.
Grab them all, collect them all. The Pokemon trading cards at tight end. And Noah Fant, we already did him. So Robert Tonyan, 12 to 25%. Eric Ebron, Tonyan, sorry.
He clarified it.
Tonyan, and he didn't for years. He just kept letting people say that. Okay.
I'm embarrassed.
Robert Tonyan, Eric Ebron. Hell, throw Logan Thomas in there too. Let's talk about this next trio.
Tonyan, if he was dropped, he was a little banged up. You think Vontae Edwards comes back because he really had only produced when Adams was out. But Tonyan has a good week. Has the biggest yardage pass play in that wind against Minnesota. So even with Jay Sternberger getting some stuff done, Tonyan getting some stuff done too. Eric Ebron, I mean, look, he's a mainstay in the offense. I think 4 out of 5 weeks now, he's had at least 4 catches. Yeah, the touchdown, it was a busted coverage, but he caught it, and he turned, and he ran towards the right end zone. All right, Eric Ebron, helping the Steelers get a big win. You're now officially a Steeler. You could do worse than playing him, especially against Dallas. And this week, we're going to have him projected pretty high. Logan Thomas, and this is the sneaky play, right? Whether you're the Kittle team that lost Kittle, or you're a team that needs a tight end, or you're trying to play defense. And look, even if you're playing defense, even if you're picking up Logan Thomas because that's the best waiver wire tight end and you don't need him, maybe you're not even playing, maybe you're, the 7-1 team, you can trade Logan Thomas to the Kittle team too. Don't forget. You can play defense and then turn a little nifty little profit there. Logan Thomas was playing really good going into the bye. Again, that Washington schedule looks very good against the pass. And if Logan Thomas can keep it up, see the line between not being on a fantasy team and being a top 10 tight end is really, really thin this year. It's basically like, do you catch some touchdowns? Do you get 3 or 4 catches a game? Logan Thomas has been doing that.
He's been doing that, and doing that is people waiting for this section of the tight end group, Bloom, because the 49ers guys aren't any higher than 3 to 5% for Jordan Reed, 1% for Ross Dwelly. Now, we can talk about Jordan Akins, 3 to 5% himself, very athletic. We can talk about Dalton Schultz, 1%er there as well. But I think a lot of people have been tuning in, a lot of Kittle owners crying in their beer,
in their Skittles,
for no reason, in their Skittles, and then going, well, why aren't Jordan Reed and Ross Dwelly higher? So let's talk about the rest of this group.
Let's take those guys first. Jordan Reed, I feel terrible saying this, but we have to just be analysts. What's the chance he's even going to finish a game? I mean, he had one game this year with the 2 touchdowns, and I was like, okay, all's clear. Then he can't, what are the chances? Like with Reed, he's a potential zonk, but he's also a potential 2 touchdown guy. Dwelly actually has been productive when Kittle's been out, but if Reed can stay healthy, now we're looking at more of kind of a split. So it's just a lot of uncertainty here with the 49ers tight ends and how it's going to shake out. That's why they're so low on the list and not high priority pickups. Although I think that I put Reed at 3 to 5%. He'll probably go for a lot more than that. I don't know if he's going to be activated for the game against Green Bay, but he should be back soon. If he's not, then maybe Dwelly should be a 3 to 5% guy because you can plug him right away. Jordan Akins. What you like about Jordan Akins is this. If Darren Fells, and don't get me wrong, Fells had that basketball background. Fells is pretty athletic, but he's not Jordan Akins. Jordan Akins is one of the few vertical tight ends. See, if we're sorting out tight ends by pure athleticism, maybe Fant and Ingram, maybe this is like your top tier, Darren Waller. Akins comes in right next. I mean, he's got vertical speed. We saw this year him make some dynamic plays, and we've seen Deshaun Watson turn the Houston tight end position into a viable position. I will not be surprised at all if he can stay healthy, knock on wood, if Jordan Akins is a top 10 tight end the rest of the way. So it's a sneaky one. I don't think anybody's looking at Akins right now. Comes out right away against Jacksonville, by the way. So I think that you like Akins as a pickup that nobody's looking at. And then Dalton Schultz, desperation play. The worse it gets for the quarterbacks for Dallas, the more they're going to look for Dalton Schultz standing there 3 yards downfield.
Right. Struggle targets abound. Oh, we should do a special New Year's Eve show just so we can do this next section.
Yeah.
Because everybody'd want to do it on 2020.
Yeah.
It is election day. It's all on our minds. And, well, you'd be shouting to the heavens, right? Everyone go outside at this time and shout. Okay. What can we say here? But it's that time where you just got to let it out. A little scream therapy. Never hurt anybody. except for your neighbor's eardrums or your coworkers or just random people at the mall that you don't know that look at you funny. Although who goes to malls? Which malls are even open right now? Anyway, whoa, 2020 Bloom.
Yeah.
That's right. So we get to that section in the show where you got to let her rip. You got to let her rip. It's a league. Let her rip. That's my buddy Big Al always says. So let's do it now as everyone join in with me and scream it to the heavens. Cue the Bloom, week 9, shut him downs.
Fight the power that be. Shut him down. I think James White at this point may still have a big game in him, but when and how are you going to time it right? T.Y. Hilton. That's been sad, by the way, to watch T.Y. Hilton no longer be T.Y. Hilton. Adam Humphries, as it is, Titans' target tree is getting more narrow, lower volume. Mark Ingram. I mean, look, even if Mark Ingram is healthy again, the chances that he has a lesser role, which he wasn't even fantasy relevant really before he got hurt. I'm not going to hang around with him. AJ Green, okay, yeah, he could level back off at a 10 to 15 PPR point play or not. Could get traded. By the way, that's another thing. Is there going to be a whole wave potentially of updates to the waiver wire based on the trade deadline? The other thing that has us on pins and needles today, Cecil. I mean, you're not going to hold that Cleveland Raiders result against Rashard Higgins, but still, you're depending on Baker Mayfield. You're depending on a low volume passing game. I mean, these are the kinds of players, no remorse. I'll let him go and see what happens. George Kittle, that just sucks. Scott Miller with Antonio Brown coming back, probably letting him go. And then, as we said, it shows. So, see, you can think of it like a slider. I like to think of like it was the Price is Right, like the thermometer game, where you had to get the right range on the thermometer for the price.
Yeah.
So based on where we're moving that range, a shut them down can become a hold on, or a hold on can become a shut them down, or even a hold on or a shut them down can become a waiver wire pickup. And that's where we are with Cam Akers, because in my mind, in my heart, when I think of dropping Cam Akers, I'm not really scared of doing that in a redraft league at this point. But when I go back and watch him at Florida State, or I think about the draft capital, then I have some pause. So in one scenario, I could see someone showing me their roster and what's on the waiver wire and say, yeah, Cam Akers, hold him through the bye, see what happens. In another scenario, shorter benches, deeper league, I might say, well, if Cam Akers is who you have to drop to pick up JaMychal Hasty or something like that, then, I mean, I'd rather have somebody whose value can grow this week if possible. By the way, on that note, as we're recording, John Elway has COVID, but also maybe the Broncos have just been looking out for you, Cease. They're saying, we love Cecil so much. Let's keep him away from the stadium because we want to keep him safe and sound because he's a true treasure of the Front Range. But it sounds like the Packers are pessimistic about Aaron Jones. So, again, like if you have, well, I have to play, I mean, my brain, Benny Snell, or I can drop Cam Akers to get Tyler Irvin this week. I'd say drop Cam Akers to get Irvin, try to get some points this week and keep going. So that's kind of where we are with Cam Akers.
And where we are in this year is, okay, the hold on list should be pretty. I know we're all emotional, right? We're an emotional lot, Bloom. But the hold on list should be pretty small. You need to be pretty ruthless this year. Again, collect running backs, collect them all, and strengthen your bench, strengthen strengths, keep adding talent, don't ever stop. So with that in mind, who are you holding on to in week 9?
Yeah, and I'm getting some good questions in the chat room about Mike Davis and Tony Pollard. And I think that we do have this idea, I suppose, starting next week when we're more than halfway through the buys, of ranking backup running backs. You want to have backup running backs, but we're always ranking them. And the best advice I can give folks is think about that 4-prong evaluation. How good is the backup? How good is the situation? How clear is it that the backup would be the lead back if the starter goes down? And how fragile or precarious is the starter ahead of them? With that in mind, as much as I like Tony Pollard as a player, he's probably lower on that list than Mike Davis, because Mike Davis has shown us that he can make a difference even in that offense if Ezekiel Elliott's not doing it. So that's just a little hint. I'd say Mike Davis is more of a hold on, and Pollard is more of a shut him down when we're comparing them. Some hold ons. Still want to see two before I drop Devontae Parker or Preston Williams. Mike Gesicki's tough. Probably. I mean, I'm dropping Mike Gesicki for Logan Thomas to give you an idea of where we are. He might be more of a shut him down. Jamison Crowder. I just want to see. Remember, Jamison Crowder, if he's on the field, he's producing. I'm not ready to bail on him yet, although let's wait and hear some more about his quote-unquote setback. I'm probably going to hold on to Cam Newton. I mean, in the wind, he was still a 20-plus point play. He's still going to give you that running ability, and Jacoby Myers gives him more than Julian Edelman was giving him. I'm probably going to hold on to D and Visca. And see, you can weigh in on this one, but Jake Luton might not be that big of a step down from Gardner Minshew. Let's remember that Gardner Minshew is the bar that we're looking at here.
Right.
And, if anything, maybe the switch away from Gardner Minshew could invigorate the offense. What do you think about your Jacksonville guys?
If you're excited about Drew Lock, you should be excited about Jake Luton. Because Locke's not as athletic as he thinks he is. He never makes the corner, right? I mean, we've seen athleticism from Josh. I haven't even been drinking. Yet, athleticism from Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. Drew Lock doesn't have that. Now, Lutton's less athletic than that. He's a pure pocket passer who stared down his first target. What's that sound like? It sounds like Drew Lock. Yeah. So, yeah, it might actually be an upgrade.
And good. I love the chat room input, by the way. Yes, Joshua Kelly's a shut him down at this point. Keelan Cole's probably a shut him down. Marquise Brown, just because I've gotten a few questions about shutting down Marquise Brown. No. I mean, I'll let him rot on my bench if Lamar Jackson can't hit him deep. Nelson Aguilar is tough, but just know that I think we're going to see a potential shootout with the Raiders and Chargers this week, and maybe we'll be talking about Aguilar on the waiver wire next week. Demarcus Robinson, I think it depends on if you need him this week. I know his value is going to close out. Don't drop Le'Veon Bell. Do you agree, Cease?
Yeah, it's that offense.
Yeah, exactly. You got a piece, and he didn't look bad last week. I mean, he still got game. He's not 24-year-old Le'Veon Bell. I probably hold on to my Dallas receivers. Not dropping Amari Cooper. CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup bounce back with DiNucci. Jimmy Graham is tough. It depends on what else is out there on the waiver wire. It is the Chicago schedule. Ronald Jones. I mean, on one hand, you feel like this Tampa Bay backfield is going to continue to change. But on the other hand, you think that means it could change back to Ronald Jones. He had 3 straight 100-yard games this year. Probably hold on to him. Rams backs are tough again with Henderson and Malcolm Brown. Malcolm Brown's a higher floor guy. Henderson's a higher ceiling. They're on a bye. I understand if you're letting your Rams backs go, but these guys have showed us some value. So the questions get tougher as we get deeper into the season. Our rosters get stretched thinner, but again, it rewards perseverance and also rewards that love of football and love of sharing that like we get to every week.
Like we get to right here on this program. So there we have it. That is a wrap for the Week 9 Waiver Wire show. We certainly love and appreciate each and every one of you out there. You know, our man Johnny Vargas got me thinking about, Bloom.
What's that?
I'm fleshing out a character, one of the many characters that I write about, who is a technocrat, all about technology, and actually wants a non-human future. Humans have consciousness. You brought it up at the beginning of the show. We're all connected. AI, no matter how powerful that we fight against, will never achieve consciousness. So just remember that. Remember that going forward.
Wait a second.
What? Okay,
Cecil. Huh. I don't want to foul us because we're getting up on the hour time, and I know that can make things harder. Let me just put it this way. This is for my other show that I have to start doing.
Right.
Because as a philosophy major, I took some classes on this. And I'll say this, Cease. The question of what produces consciousness is an open question. And we cannot answer that question definitively. So I don't think that we can say with like a closed case, question done, that machines, let's just put it this way, that consciousness cannot rise out of silicon-based circuitry instead of carbon-based circuitry. Because it's circuitry. We've got circuits, right. Nerves are our electrical system. electrical impulses. We share a lot more in common with robots than we'd like to think.
Right. Oh, look at that. And I would say this to counteract. Maybe I should have said spirituality because you're going to achieve consciousness.
Soul.
Yes,
But is a soul consciousness? I mean, see, now we're getting into all these tricky questions. Tricky.
I know. Because we are souls. We just have bodies.
Yeah, so spaceship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, enjoy your spaceship. I would say finally on a very serious note, violence isn't the answer. So, okay, the election's going to happen. We're probably not going to know the results tonight or tomorrow or maybe for a while. Anyone out there that's responding with violence, you're a moron, basically, is my opinion. Come down on the side of peace. I can't believe like there's what was that? Was it New York Times article, Bloom? There's an article like you and your neighbors can disagree politically and get along. How? Read this article. Yeah, it's called being a human. It's called not being an asshole. Holio. Sorry, Joe. Look at YouTube's like strike.
Yeah. Demerit.
You cannot monetize this video because you talked about a bunghole. All right. Yeah, don't be a bunghole.
Water pipe, Cecil. Water pipe.
Water pipe. That's bongholio. Now I'm totally off track. But yeah, don't be an ass. Okay. Everyone be peaceful and remember, like Bloom said, we gotta get along. We gotta get through this. So let's do that all together. Let's just stop this show and then start another show so we can keep this conversation going.
I'll be back at 2:30, folks, with Scott Barrett on the couch.
Oh, Scott Barrett.
Yeah, okay. Hold your hand through the trade deadline as it passes, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. I like the way Dave says it here. Peace, love, and fantasy. All right, everyone. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.